get it released. We do not want it sitting at the seat of the door of the data center for 3 weeks. Can't have that. We've got to shoot through this stuff. And there's a discipline now called DevOps, which is all about linking dev and ops together. And it's about having a single model, which goes all the way from dev through to ops, from ops to use. It's about automation. And it's about linking all those tool chains that the development, the testing, and the deployment guys have. It's a relatively new, but fairly well known and developed technology. It's called DevOps. The next thing we need to do, of course, is have an engaging customer experience. Today it's mobility, and it's becoming increasingly wearables, but there are going to be 55 billion things with applications on them. I've already talked about this. This is the use of data science for our own analysis, yes, but increasingly to do the digital disruption, to do what Airbnb and Uber and precision farming and all those kinds of people are doing. Put big data and data science into the product. So we, as core IT, need to create a big data platform to allow these fluid guys to do their analysis on, and then they can feed all their data into that. And then lastly, of course, we are going to have 55 billion more devices, and we need to make sure that that increased attack surface can be defended against people who would love to monetize the access. I know have you seen the video of the Jeep going off the road in California? There was a guy, I think he worked for a newspaper, and he'd worked out how to get the Jeep, to take control of the Jeep. And he wrote to Jeep, and they said, no, they got nothing back from him. So he rang up, he must have been a hacker, I think. He rang up a journalist friend of his, and he said, if you'd like to, you can get into a Jeep, and I will drive you off a California road. I won't kill you, but you can film me driving you off a Californian road. Imagine 55 billion devices that you could do that to. It's kind of scary. So those are the things that I think we need to put in place in order to get fluid and core IT to talk to each other and really get a benefit from having this bimodal / two-speed IT. Now, I don't know if you know, but in about a week's time, HP is splitting in half, and we're having something called HP Enterprise, which is the part I belong to. And what we are all about, our organisation is all about, is basically 4 things. It's about this stuff here, the service brokering, continuous innovation, hybrid apps. It's about making sure we have engaging customer experience for our customers, but also inside the workplace. It's about big data, and also it's about protecting all those assets, whether they are users, applications, or smart devices in the future. So there's a real whiz through digital disruption and how we in IT can cope with that. Any questions? I always speak too fast, so I do apologise. Yes?
How will you be employing that to assist the other half of HP?
Good question. So we are creating what we call digital innovation centres, which are basically areas where you can go and you can see the kinds of things you might want to do. Probably the first people we approached, actually, funnily enough, were the old part of HP, and we said, can we have some of your 3D printers, please? Because we are very interested in this idea in manufacturing in the future of having 3D printers. That's probably the main area in which there are other areas. They have this, is it called Sprout, I think it's called, where you can actually build things by using your fingers, hands. That's all part of this kind of digital design stuff as well.
There's always been a big disconnect between HP and the end consumer. Do you feel that some of this technology can be used to reconnect the new technology? So we're hearing about near field being brought into print and that kind of stuff. Is that something that
I'm afraid you're asking the wrong guy. That's the side of HP that we're saying goodbye to. So.
Right. But they need your help.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry. Honestly, that's a part of HP I don't deal with at all. So.
A question for you. What I sense is that your customers are really wanting to move at pace. Their customers, we had Eurostar talk about their end customers, their passengers, really wanting to have access to devices, have access to apps that will really help the customer experience. And therefore, to talk about how you need to respond to that very quickly. It's kind of general thinking is that smaller niche companies provide that kind of rapid response. Has HP got itself in a position where it can be very responsive and can do these very agile digital things in an experimental
So I would say that you'll have the people who do the actual apps. We don't do that. But what we try to do is put in place the infrastructure, the tools, the integrations and the automation to allow that to occur. So for example, if imagine you're going from development through testing to production. What you want is you want a single model all the way through, because if you start with an application design, you want to then do testing on that same model. When you put that thing into production, you actually want it to become your CMDB in order for you to do management of it, and also you want to use it for your security management as well. So we allow you to put in place a single model. Now, if you happen to start with something at the other end, we can discover that model for you and bring it backwards. So that's one example. Another example, you need to integrate tool chains. In other words, you need to make it so that, I used to be in development, and you'd kind of do one step, and then there'd be this kind of manual handoff where you'd hand it to the next team. We want to make sure that the tools that these guys use are automatically updated with the information, so the next team can get on with what's going on. So we call it tool chain integration. And then we want to use automation to actually take your application and get it onto your platform automatically. We do not want to have manual deployment between unit test and system test, and manual deployment between system test and maybe experimentation, and manual deployment between experimentation and full rollout. So we use automation in order to achieve that. So while we don't write the apps for Eurostar, what we can do is put in place the platform that allows you to zoom through like a very fast train, kind of through dev, through test, through experimentation and maybe into production.
I have a question about a slide which was quite interesting. It was the splitting of the team.
Oh yeah.
The innovative part and the kind of
Yes.
the light
Yes.
part.
Yes.
And there was an interesting sentence over there. More than 70% will fail to do both.
Yes.
Can you
I zipped over that. I do apologise. That's a statistic from Gartner. What they've said is if you try to use... So this guy here, he's in the Fluid IT team. He likes to experiment. He is pretty bored by process. That's the kind of thing he is. This guy here, he's been in IT for 30 years. He's seen all this new stuff. It always bloody fails. You know, I've seen changes go in. They always fail. Do you know what I mean? And those are the right people that you need for those roles. And what Gartner has said is if you try to use the same people with the same measures, the same supplier relationships to do both, you will fail, because you've either got a bunch of these guys or you've got a bunch of these guys. That's what they say. And I think that's true. I really do. I joined HP and I worked in R&D, and I worked with a bunch of guys like this, and getting them to do anything apart from go to the pub in a repeated way was just impossible. So I think they're right. But as I say, yes, great, but we've just got to make sure there's that linkage between the two. We've got to put in place the stuff for the link.
I think that will be a chat. So it's a question.
Yeah, so I was at the Gartner Digital Workplace Conference about a month ago,
All right.
which is quite interesting, obviously two modes, and the core IT, obviously the new generation of employee coming through. How will HP keep up with people that the most sort of modern technology they have now is in their home, not in the office?
How will we keep up in what terms?
So what's the sort of plan? What's your strategy? Because what worries me is with our Fluid IT department, they bring in their own apps, they've got their own tools. The office is the most non-technology place for them. You know, their phone on the way to work has got more technology in it than what they use at work. So how will HP keep that curve so that we can keep people engaged and working more effectively?
So it's very interesting you mentioned that there are 4 parts actually to the new HP Enterprise, which I will be part of. And one of those parts is actually all to do with, it's to do with mobility, but also the workplace. So for example, we've acquired a network company that gives you 6 gigabit per second Wi-Fi inside the organisation. It gives you positioning data and all that kind of thing. So there is definitely an awareness in HP that it's all very well you having a way cool front end to your Eurostar app. If the guys in the back end are still using paper and quill, that's not very good. So that is something that we are aware of, and we're working to make sure that there's a balance between the workers and the front end stuff as well.
It's an interesting challenge, I think.
It is an interesting challenge. The other thing I would say is that I've been in HP for a while, and I've observed the testing guys used to say, right, if you buy all our testing stuff, you'll be great. They don't do that anymore. They integrate with Puppet and Chef and all that kind of stuff. And the first thing they're looking now at Internet of Things, and the first thing they're figuring out is, okay, what are the standards for Internet of Things? Let's get into those standards. Let's not write. Unfortunately, there are 5 of them, which is a bit sad. But let's go for what's out there. Let's not try to say, right, you've got to take all our stuff, which then means that you can download the latest cool stuff and it'll still work.
Any other questions?
Well, thanks very much for your time. The slides are going to be given out afterwards, and I've put quite extensive notes into the slides. So, a picture of like a self-driving car, you'll probably think, what the hell was he talking about? I've actually put notes associated with that. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you.